It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
Don't let the Twins get hot, Roscoe. Don't let the Twins get hot. Twins take the series against the Chicago White Sox with a 6-1 win. Brilliant start from Pablo Lopez, who goes 7 innings, allows 1 run, only being a solo homer. Goes 7 innings, 5 strikeouts, 9 swings and misses on 98 pitches. Another home run for Harrison Bader, who might now just get the loudest ovation at Target Field tomorrow, assuming he's in the lineup. We saw our first buck truck of the season. We saw Carlos Correa finally find grass with multi-hits after coming into the game being hitless. And considering their 0-4 start, ending it with 2 crooked numbers against the White Sox is always a good thing. Maybe the laws of nature are back. The Twins are back, and so are the White Sox, because it really felt like that over the last 2 games. Twins will return home. They have Houston, the home opener tomorrow, which, by the way, will be hanging out at Kieran's in downtown Minneapolis tomorrow from 1 to 2 o'clock. So if you are in the area, go ahead and stop on down. We'll be there from 1 to 2 hanging out. We'll also be live here on the YouTube channel talking from there, too. So if you haven't done so already, come hang out with us. Or you'll watch here, like, subscribe. Twins are back, though, Ross. And also, welcome back, Ross Brendel, to the SKOR North Twins Show.
Well, thank you for having me, Declan. Looking forward to the first of many quick hitters as we close out this pod. I think the story writes itself. Where would this Minnesota Twins squad be without Harrison Bader? You all said the poll ads were cheap. They found a couple $1,000,000 hanging out somewhere at Target Field, and they said, we're going to make a splash. We're going to get Harrison Bader, who is personally going to make Twins baseball watchable the first 6 games of the year.
Yeah, I mean, they signed him for good defensive reliability, which he still brings. He's a former Gold Glover, and you had to kind of cross your fingers with his bat. But considering the Twins didn't have a really good, viable backup option to Buxton, or really a viable option in left field, now all of a sudden you go from an outfielder that has Buxton, Bader, and you can put Matt Wallner, Deshaun Kersey in there as an option too. You go from that, and then Bader just comes up here and starts hitting right-handed pitching like crazy. This is nuts. He's been the MVP over the last week, and he's only been in the lineup, I think, 4 times. So, yes, he literally might get the loudest ovation at Target Field tomorrow. I don't know how we quantify that, but I bet he gets one of the loudest for those that do show up to the home opener tomorrow.
Is it sustainable, Declan? Probably not. Will it continue throughout the season? Probably not. But over the course of 162 games, sometimes guys are going to carry you to victory that maybe you don't quite expect to carry you. And I don't want to be Mr. Negativity here, Declan, but I think I told you before the season even started, let's just get home at 2-4. Now, I didn't think the route would be lose the first 4 and win the next 2. And obviously you can't go 2-4 all year long. But my point was, just get back to Target Field, not buried, hopefully play some decent baseball. And albeit against the White Sox, I think they'll be better than last year. How could they not be? Probably not going to be a great team. Still nice to win a series, especially after you drop the first one.
Yeah, it makes somewhat of the slow start not forgiven, because they started 0-4 and it was just awful baseball from the pitching and hitting side. But I think the way they rallied from the 6th inning on yesterday to their performance today, where they had to basically wait around 3 extra hours. It's luckily, a flight home from Chicago to Minneapolis is an hour in the air, even if that. So this wasn't like they were stuck on the West Coast and now they're going to get home late and they got to be back at the ballpark tomorrow early. This kind of worked out for them where they can still, they were able to just kind of wait around. Pablo gives them a great start. I thought that was also very important. He was okay in the opener. They have had some shaky outings from Chris Paddock and from obviously Bailey Ober. I thought Sim yesterday also gave them kind of a mixed bag. But they needed a good 7-inning performance from their ace, which is Pablo Lopez. They kind of taxed the bullpen yesterday. Duran was able to throw in the 8th inning today, but he's probably still available in a save situation if that arises tomorrow. So it was, I think, really important, too, for Pablo mostly to just to set the tone, give them 7 strong innings, not have to rely on that bullpen by the 5th or 6th.
Yeah, and my hunch would be to what you said, Declan, following up on Duran. I would guess that he's 100% available because they will play tomorrow, and then you have the built-in off day on Friday. Mm-hmm. So if he has to go out, get a save, maybe pitch in an extra inning situation, I think he'll be fine there. Overall, Declan, the first 6 games, it's really tough to put stock in these games. They matter. I think I've told you before, I don't love how it seems like for the last 20 years, the organizational approach has always kind of been, oh, April and May, whatever happens, happens. Well, sometimes you're sprinting in September because you didn't take April and May seriously. So I'm not discrediting these games. If I had more time and I wasn't trying to watch the Twins and your Gopher women's basketball team win a national championship,
Hell yeah.
I would have looked this up, Declan, and follow me when I say this. I'm going to put a disclaimer on this.
Okay.
I am not saying the Minnesota Twins are going to go to the World Series.
Okay.
I am not saying that. What I am saying is, if you go look at the two teams that went to the World Series last year, maybe not the Dodgers, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say both teams probably had at least one 4-game losing streak. What hurt the Twins was that your 4-game losing streak is at the very start of the year, and that's all that people are noticing or caring about. So
Right.
you play better baseball here in April. My goal in April for any team, Declan, just don't bury yourself. Play somewhere near 500, and if you're in the mix at the end of April, which you probably will be, you're fine. And I think that that's kind of what I'm hoping to see out of this Twins team. They get the Astros. These are not your older brother's Astros. At least we don't think they will be. Would be nice to maybe take 2 of these 3 games as well. And yes, come say hi to Declan at Kieran's tomorrow.
Yeah, it should be fun. Again, just steps away from Target Field and Target Center. So if you're around, please do show up on those Astros. So they're also 2-4. They lost today 6-3. Their lineup has managed just 7 singles in that game, and Houston has just 4 extra base hits in their first 205 plate appearances. Ooh. They've only scored 12 runs in 6 games. Now they come to Target Field, colder environment. So one of 2 things is about to happen, Ross. I think you know where I'm going. Number 1, well, the Twins remain hot, and their bats have finally woken up a little bit here. They'll get some solid starting pitching. They'll be good. Or they're awakening a giant that has not been able to hit the baseball for the first 6 games, and then the Astros score 26 runs and 40 hits over the next 3 games at Target Field. I'm not trying to put that in the ether, but which Astros teams do we get? We'll have to wait and see. I agree they're not the same Astros that basically dominated the American League for like 8 of the last 10 years. But I thought it was imperative for them, the Twins, to get these 2 wins, show some life on the hitting and the pitching side. Because if they were 0-6 coming home, and look, tomorrow's going to be cold. I encourage everyone, obviously, go to Target Field, okay? It's a beautiful, brilliant place. It's going to be cold as hell tomorrow. But if they were 0-6 coming home tomorrow, that would have been, even for opening day standards, probably the slowest and smallest opening day crowd. So, like, morale-wise, the Twins 100% needed these wins.
Well, let's be honest, Declan. The start of the season, first 3-4 games, when you're not winning, kind of had vibes of 2016, where the team started off 0-9. And correct me if I'm wrong, was their home opener after 9 straight losses to start the year? Yeah, I seem to recall it may have been, but regardless of that, it doesn't really matter. You're already fighting many things against you. The fans aren't, for obvious reasons, behind ownership. Plenty of fans, really at this point, are probably passively interested in the team. And when you start off slow, you don't really get that, oh, let's go snatch up one of those extra tickets and head on down to Target Field. The weather for April, look, I'm not going to say it's super nice, but if you look at the forecast beginning tomorrow, they're going to get plenty of these games in, more than likely, if the forecast holds. So I agree with you. I think for the Twins, agree with you heading down to Target Field. I think for the Twins in this series, what's important is, one, continue getting the hits, but also let's just see how Joe Ryan looks. He looked okay in his first start, but Bailey Ober, how does he rebound? He seems to have, I think you have the tweet, there seems to be some sort of hex on him from teams in St. Louis. Wasn't it last year his start against the Royals to start the year was even worse than his start against the Cardinals, or the Birds, a couple days ago. So I think you just want to continue to, I don't want to say stack wins, but you do want to build something off of this. I think it's pretty important, even though early. Try and win a series. See if you can take 2 out of 3. And if you take the home opener, that's even better, because then you're talking about only having to split the next 2 games. I like building in the off day. I think it's good so you can still get the entire series in. I will say this, to backtrack just a little bit. What were your thoughts on waiting around to play today? I loved it. I think it's great, especially early in the season. Maybe you want to play the White Sox in July or August when they're 30 games out of first place. I get that. But also at the beginning of the year when you don't truly know what the weather is going to look like, I don't think you want to chase games that you need to make up. So I was okay waiting around and playing today, especially for the reason that you said. You're not coming from Sacramento, Anaheim, or Oakland. You're coming from Chicago. Heck, they could drive that tonight if they wanted to and get home and still get good rest. So I liked it. I wanted to get the game in.
Yeah, I think it was probably important just to kind of wait it out. I know that puts the team in a tough spot. I mean, hell, they've been through 3 rain delays in 6 games. I mean, they had one on opening day. They had one on Sunday, and then they had another one today. So, that stinks. It's hard to get in a routine and rhythm. They haven't been able to hit BP either, which probably played a factor into their offense being a little slow out the gate. So, and they don't go back to Chicago again until August because now you don't play your divisions as much as you used to, which I'm a fan of. I think it was probably important just to wait around, get this game in. What's more amazing is despite being 0-4 and the Twins now winning back-to-back games, this is your first place Minnesota Twins. Everyone in the AL Central is 2-4 right now. I was looking at the standings last year because obviously the Twins got off to a brutal start. It was kind of if you look at those first 20 games, they were 7-13. They were 8 games back by April 21st. They were at one point. They once crawled back because they won, 9 in a row after the horrid start, and they were a half game back of Cleveland, but then they never came close to overtaking the division last season. So this part that you're ready, and look, I do think the AL Central is going to be very competitive. You might not see like a 95-win team in it. You're probably, though, going to see 2 or 3 teams that will likely be jockeying for the division and maybe even the second wild card spot. But the fact that they've started 0-4 and you're somehow in first place by the end of that after 2 games, that's amazing. So that part also makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to look at that. You go, boy, if we could have just got 1 game in St. Louis, could have got maybe 2 games in St. Louis or swept the White Sox, but you really can't control that at this point. So I look at it the same way you do. Could even be worse, right? You could have went 0-6. So to be at this point, to be 2-4, have a chance to. It's April. You're not going to win the division in April. I think we talked about this last year, but the old adage, you're not going to win the division in April and May, but you sure as hell can lose the division in April and May. So after 6 games, I don't think anybody really wanted the team to be 2-4. I only said I wanted them to be 2-4 just to avoid a disastrous start. I think we all wanted it to be better. I think we all believe it should have been better. But again, I don't want to take the easy way out here, but you're 2-4, come home, win a couple ball games here against Houston. You'll feel a lot better about yourself, and I think fans are already feeling a bit better, even though, again, it was just against the White Sox. But nice to see the bats come to life and even hit a few balls out in what just looked to be, it's called the Windy City for a reason. Those looked like incredible conditions, probably some of the craziest I think I've seen in all my years of watching the Twins at Chicago, and even all those Cubs games growing up. I mean, just wicked wind. Wallner got the nice little gift double yesterday. Hit it, 120 feet and winds up at second base. Good for him.
And there was probably, I think, 2. I know Buxton got robbed of a home run. The Twins got fortunate. I forget who it was for Chicago, but the wind blew another ball in that Buck caught on the warning track.
Luis Robert, I think, right?
Yeah.
Was that Luis Robert?
The wind will probably still be a factor for the Twins coming in from that left center area again for these 3 games coming up against Houston. And you mentioned, not losing the division in April or not winning it either. But, I mean, they just played 3 against the White Sox. They'll have 3 here against Houston. But then after that, the next 7 games, again, AL Central teams. You're in KC for 4. Come back home for Detroit for 3. So you're going to see a lot of AL Central here early on. And, yeah, you'd like to – they took the season series against Chicago and KC and I believe Detroit last year. I think they edged out Detroit. Or was it, I think they maybe just lost out to Detroit. They got whooped by Cleveland all season. I think they only won 3 games against the Guards last year. But those tiebreaker scenarios, look at these division wins now as good things because we saw last year how close it came down to tiebreakers. And that was a big thing that the Twins were holding their hand. Well, no, don't worry, because if they finish the same record as Kansas City, they get to go in because of the tiebreakers, which was always like, well, can you not lose games? That'd be the first thing. But then, yes, let's talk about tiebreakers. Yes, stack these wins now, so then when we do start to maybe do some magic number crunching and watching 4 or 5 months from now, you feel a lot better about banking these early April 7th, 8th wins.
Well, and also there's some things for the actual ball players, the team, they can't really control this, but there's something to be said about winning early to get the people that are kind of out on the edge or the peripherals to maybe get them back excited. Because as we talked about, you've talked about it plenty of times, on the Twin Show, it shouldn't directly affect the players, but there is some negativity around this team, and that would only be fueled by, not playing well here in April. But winning cures all. If you play well enough in April, people will be out there. Maybe not in May. It's Minnesota. They may wait a bit. But if you give people a reason to show up in June, July, and August, I highly doubt people that claim they're not going to go to the ballpark are going to hold true to that if you get to June 15th and we're talking about a 35-23 baseball team. I really don't believe that. So I think just for the general fan morale and just everything that goes with keeping people happy around the team, I think winning these games is very important here early on, more so than just not burying yourself early on.
Hit that like button and subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twins Show YouTube channel. Appreciate everyone that has. Even during the 0-4 start, you're still hitting the like button and subscribe button, so appreciate that. I'll be in the clubhouse and covering the team starting tomorrow at Target Field. Looking forward to that. Yeah, they have 3 against Houston. They go back on the road to KC, and they'll come back for Detroit. And then the Mets. The Mets get to come back to town. Now you get to see every team at least once. It's the Mets' turn to come to Minneapolis, so the Mets will be here in the middle of the month. But that May schedule you brought up, Ross, they have Baltimore early. They have San Francisco as well being here, which should be exciting. So there's some exciting teams coming to Target Field you want to have a measuring stick against. You really want to make sure that give the fans enough to come, and they should show up and hopefully pack the place. And yeah, it was good for the morale part of it, just the fact that they were 0-4 and it looked just dead in the water. And thankfully they were able to come back and win these 2 games against a lowly White Sox team that's probably, again, on a death march to 55 wins, losing a season series. And they only lost 1 game to the White Sox all season last year. So you can keep that streak alive again by taking the next few series. But speaking of, stacking division wins, losing a season series to the White Sox is not in the cards if you want to have tiebreaker success in the AL Central.
My hunch would be, Declan, if a good team in the American League Central has a decent record but just ends up missing the playoffs, it will more than likely be because they lost too many games to the White Sox.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's not a guarantee, but more than likely that will factor into it. I do want to ask you one question, and I'm almost positive I got the player right. Did you see the end of the game, and Chris Atterbury, who's doing TV, commented on it? Is Trevor Larnach carrying around a keg of water? Was that Larnach? What? I've never seen a water bottle so big in my life. That has to be 100 and some ounces.
I know Pablo had a big one too. I saw him pregame with a big water jug. That, you know what? I'm going to add that to my list. I'm going to add that to my list for tomorrow to ask Trevor Larnach, how many ounces is that water bottle? Well, I mean, what would you think ballpark? Just on TV.
I would say it's 128. You can get those 64 ouncers. Because this thing, did you see the handle on this thing?
I did.
It had the pail handle that you carry a 5-gallon bucket in. I think it's, so a 64-gallon drum or ounce drum you can get at most service stations, right? Yeah. Convenience stores. Our friends at Quick Trip, I know, have them.
That's right.
I feel like it's minimum 100 ounces, Declan. I'll go with 128. It's somewhere between 100 and 128. I'd be shocked if it's less than that. That thing is ginormous.
Yeah, I mean, a gallon of water, to your point, my St. Cloud math, your Lakeville math, that 128 ounces. So
I think it might be a gallon.
That's probably the start. Yeah, it is a gallon. That's what a gallon is 128.
No, but I mean, that's what his jug might be. That thing's huge.
Must
Get to the bottom of it. That's why you're in the clubhouse.
Yeah, gallon of water. Hey, is that 128 ounces? Do you drink? And then I always love, what happens if you have to go to the bathroom? There was that infamous photo of Brian Dozier 10 years ago just pissing in the background of the clubhouse because it was right next to it. So
was that Oakland? That was Oakland, right? That was the Coliseum.
It had to have been. Yeah. Very fitting for it to be Oakland.
I got to be honest, Declan, all things being equal, I feel okay. I would have liked to have gotten a few more wins, but for everything that you said, you won a couple in a row. It's not like you started off 0-6 and somebody else went 6-0. Not that you couldn't overcome that. We know it. We know you can. But I think we really, I said this last year, I think we really got to get in, unless you absolutely bury yourself, I think you got to get into late May or early June before you can have any real grandiose opinions. Again, wins matter. Wins matter. Win every game you play. But it's really tough to sit here after 6 games and say, oh boy, I think they're only going to be a 333 winning percentage team as the entire season goes on. I don't think there's nearly enough evidence to say that at this point.
For sure. One last note here, because I saw this yesterday, which obviously was a good thing. So Twins, I think, went 7 for 14 with runners in scoring position yesterday, and today 3 for 6. So they're keeping they're hitting the ball with runners in scoring position, something that this team was preaching, something they weren't doing last year. Now, I mean, you're not going to be batting 500 all year with runners in scoring position, but it was a big point of emphasis going into this offseason and overturning your hitting regime. So that's a big one. Continue to hit with runners in scoring position.
It's crazy, Declan, what can happen. The Guardians have really made almost a half decade out of it at this point. What can happen if you just put the ball in play?
Yeah.
Even that first series against the Cardinals, they had a couple innings where they were hammering people. Don't get me wrong. And even the first game that Chicago won, just putting the ball in play. Hit it where they're not. It's amazing what can happen. And when the Twins don't strike out at a high clip, call me crazy, Declan. Anybody can say spend more money in the offseason, buy a better team. That's true. Maybe you can. I still think this team has really good players if they're healthy and if they're not striking out 15 times a game.
Well, yeah, I mean,
two big ifs, but there's good players on this team. This is a good team.
I mean, it just becomes a math game. If you're striking out, you said 15 strikeouts, so you take away 10 of those, so that's 10 batted balls.
Correct.
That could mean 3 of them come through for hits, and that's big. That's 3 extra hits you weren't accounting for. So
one of them's booted by the shortstop, and 2 runs come home. Right? Maybe It's not even an actual hit, but it creates an error.
I'm sorry for putting you on the spot here, Ross, but is there a quick hitter? Ross, for those who aren't familiar with the SKOR North Extra Innings Twin shows, when Ross is co-hosting with me, Ross loves to bring a goofy question at the end, whether it could be baseball-related, stadiums-related, sometimes just life-related. He likes to throw one at me. So if you haven't already, here comes a goofy question from Ross that I'm excited to ask, or excited to answer. And hit that like button, subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twin Show for more goofy questions from Ross.
I think I've asked you a form of this question before, but I don't believe it was spun to you this way, and I'm going to keep track this year. I actually have a laundry list.
Nice.
We'll start here. This will be kind of inspired by our guy, AJ Frederickson, who put up a great graphic with you as one of the bench warmers when the Twins, I think, was that after 0-4? I can't remember, but it was a great graphic
and
with you.
By the way, undefeated ever since.
Exactly. You know what? Let's print shirts with that graphic on. Maybe that's... We'll look back at the end of the year and say, wow, the Twins went 120-42. What turned it around? That tweet from our guy, I think it was AJ, so hat tip to AJ Frederickson. Not your favorite character. Doesn't have to be your favorite character, although it probably is. If you could be any character in any baseball movie, can be real or made up, who would Declan be?
Well, oh God. I have one movie in mind, but I have 3 characters that I would love to be in these movies.
Give them to me. That's fine.
Okay. So, I mean, The Sandlot is an all-timer for me. Actually, I just watched it start to finish for the first time. I mean, I've seen it 100 times, but probably for the first time in 5+ years. So, I mean, a lot of, like, even playing baseball growing up, my friend said, like, you are a perfect hybrid between Smalls and Squints. Like, if Smalls and Squints became one person, it's me.
I can see it. I can see that.
I got the squints because I squint. I'm kind of a little dork. I think I'm a bigger ladies man than I definitely am. I definitely wouldn't be able to. I didn't have the fortitude to pull a move on a lifeguard like Squints does, and I definitely wasn't able to be that guy. But I would say Squints or Smalls. But if you're asking me to like wave the magic wand and just be like, you're this character, I mean, how does anyone not want to be Benny the Jet Rodriguez?
Yeah, he had everything.
I know that's probably like the easiest. It might be like your Family Feud #1 answer of what baseball character would you love to be? How could you not want to be Benny the Jet?
You know, I broke this down. I may have been with our mutual friend, Manny Hill, who does some great work for us in our Hubbard building. If you go back and watch the play, when Benny the Jet Rodriguez steals home for the Dodgers, Declan, I think I can submit to you he was actually out at home.
I think I've seen people talk about this. Yeah.
I think it's very close, but I think they tag him about an inch before he touches home plate. So I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, and even I will say this though, not to be mean to the actor that played old Benny the Jet Rodriguez, but they really did young Benny the Jet Rodriguez a disservice. He went from, I'll just throw it out there, he went from being a handsome, good-looking kid, if I can say that without getting in trouble, to kind of just an old, ugly, kind of looked like this will be mean, kind of looked like a Jeff Rebelay type.
Yeah.
Benny the Jet Rodriguez should have been casted better as a fake Major League Baseball player. That's my hot take.
We certainly do not have to get into the demographics of what you like and who you don't like as a kid, but I do feel if anyone who grew up with that movie in the generations, and I know, Ross, you were born in the 80s, I was 92, but if you grew up with that movie, I mean, I would say there's a good chance that who was your first crush, and a lot of guys would say it was Wendy Peppercorn, and a lot of women would say it was Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
Yes.
Or it might have been both, like whatever floats your boat.
Who knows?
But I definitely can confidently say, like, oh, I remember Wendy Peppercorn when I was a little kid. Of course everyone does. So,
well, I'll say this. Squints outkicked his coverage because he did eventually land Wendy. And if you're trying to draw parallels, Declan, this will come across as creepy. It's not meant to be. You definitely outkicked your coverage with your gal because you are far goofier looking than your gal is. So
that's right. That part. I'm more of adult Squints than I think I am kid Squints. So that part
good to know.
Is definitely good. All right, so that's your goofy quick hitter from Ross.
That's your quick hitter. Just want to know who you would be. If I can answer, which sometimes I do, I have an infatuation with fake Billy Bean from Moneyball. I don't know if I would like real Billy
version?
Bean, but
like
I thought
Brad
yes, correct. Yeah. It's a great character. And I don't know how real to life it is to real Billy Bean. I've heard the real Billy Bean interviewed countless times, but never in the way that Billy Bean was portrayed in that movie. But I just think it's a great character. It's really good. So that might be mine.
That is a good one. I've been meaning to try to watch that, but I have to pay for it, and I refuse to pay for. I'll pay whatever other. I'll pay $12 for a beer, but the moment I have to rent a movie for $4 on Amazon, I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I was trying to watch it last week because same thing. I haven't watched it in a while, and I kind of wanted to watch it. I was in a baseball itch.
I agree with you, and one thing I won't do, Declan, is because you have witnessed it. I have about a $5 limit is what I will pay to park. So if I have to go to a Twins game but park in Roseville for free, that's what I will do.
You're doing it.
You're doing it.
I love it. Hit the like button,
buddy.
subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twins Show. Thank you, Ross. You can catch Ross here weekly on the extra innings episode. You can also catch AJ and Judd joining me periodically. Trevor Plouffe Tuesdays. And then again, we'll be at Kieran's on Thursday. So if you're consuming this tonight, or maybe you're consuming this in the morning on your way to Target Field, trying to find parking, go stop in at Kieran's first. Hang out with us from 1 to 2 o'clock. Have some pregame pints before we walk over to Target Field. For Ross, I'm Declan. This is the SKOR North Twins Show. We'll be talking at you soon.